Hello, I'm Jacqueline Clark and I'm a potter. I'm based in Penpol, which is near Devon in Cornwall. So I make thrown and hand-built work. My glazes are all inspired by this location. I make them myself, so I base them on the different tidal states. So at low tide, I have a really dry glaze that's a sort of a grey-green, and it's almost like a slip itself. And then I have summer seas, I call, which is my high tide glaze, so that's turquoise, and imagine a beautiful sunny day in Cornwall. And then I have a mizzle glaze. So the clay that I actually use, I actually get from St Agnes. They mix a number of different clays up there, but they'll also custom mix for you. But really their main clays are this very white clay, which is very high in china clay content. Then they have a darker clay where they combine the clay that they dig up on the cliffs there from their own clay pit, which, as I say, they've been digging from there for at least 100 years, I think. And it is a beautiful clay. It's a bit rougher. It has some more texture in it. So they mix a raku clay, for example, that has a lot of grog in it. But it makes a really lovely, warm tone of clay. And of course, depending on the clay that you use, that affects the colour of the glazes. So when I get the clay, when it arrives, it's very, very wet. So I have to do quite a lot of work with the clay before I can even use it. So I have to dry it right out. And it has a lot of air in it, so I have to wedge it really thoroughly. But once done, it is a really beautiful clay to work with. So I make kind of tidal forms, and I inscribe the grasses and the reeds in the margins of the creek here, and then I kind of do an inturned lip on quite a few of my forms, and that's just to kind of reference the top sides of the boats, because there's a boatyard right opposite here, so I look out onto the boatyard. It's right at the head of a creek, so it's right. So I see a huge difference in tide, but of course historically it was a very, very industrial area. There was a big smelting works nearby, and really on the foreshore there's lots of sort of byproduct of the smelting works, which I use in my work as well. So they have really, really interesting textures on them, and I really enjoy to sort of beach comb, I suppose you'd call it, on the foreshore here, and find interesting pieces that then I'll incorporate into some of my work. I gather the clay from the creek, but I can't use it as actual clay. I use it to decorate the pots, so I mix it with water and sieve it and use it as a slip to decorate. It has a high iron content, and this will be as a result of the smelting works that were here in the 1800s. I've been hugely inspired by the Japanese aesthetic, and I do like my work to have a sense of calm, because also, again, I find that is what I have with this sense of place. It's a very calm, quiet environment. When you're at the head of a creek, it's a very quiet place. So I also make hand-built boats. I spent quite a long time developing this as a concept. I didn't want to make a direct representation of a boat. I wanted to try and capture the essence of the form. I use quite a lot of different clays for the boats, and I'm constantly developing more glazes to try and emulate the decomposing boats. So that's the kind of work that I'm doing at the moment in my practice. So if you're passing Penpol and you see the studio doors open, please come and say hello. I'd be delighted to show you around the studio.